So yesterday we were looking into the concepts and also a little bit on reality or what can be directly known. We looked into the concept more yesterday because for yogis too, what are not the suitable objects, the yogi also should know. You should know their way that it arises. At least you know what is happening, that you know that you're not supposed to take it up for or during vipassana meditation. They will come in again and again, every retreat. And it can come in sometimes clearer than what you have right now. They can be very tricky, cunning. Together with it, it comes with emotions, it comes with desire, it comes with happiness, it comes with all kinds of range of emotions. So our job is to make sure that we know what to note and what to let go and what to take up to notice the those objects. Because when we deal with the mind, it's so, if the mindfulness or the wisdom factor or the discernment is not powerful enough to discern these two, many times yogi will fall into the concept, the analyzing, the thinking, the judgment, the intellectualization, or you're bringing in a lot of theoretical knowledge rather than actual noticing the object. So easy for the mind to get caught into this concept, into these thoughts. Not just only when you are sitting, where we have to deal with these thoughts, but also you have to deal with seeing and smelling and tasting. And here too, you must not fall into the concept of thoughts thinking, which they come in from the five senses. So the mind has, you have to be vigilant, you know what to do, and don't take up the wrong object. So in other words, for vipassana, you need to have a very strong, clear, noticing mind that consists of, at least it consists of mindfulness and this clear comprehension. And together with like concentration, effort, and so on, a multiple ingredient that make up this noting mind. Then you must have a right object for the noting mind to pay attention to. So you must have these both together to come together to make things as vipassana. Or actually, you only have 2/3 of vipassana only, but at least you get it right. So you have the object, you have the right object, you have the correct object, and you have the correct state of mind, the right state of mind. So both have to come in together. If you have the right objects, you know what you're supposed to notice. But the noting mind, or the mind that pays attention, is not powerful, it's superficial, it's just awareness only. But you have a right object. That also, it cannot go into vipassana meditation. Yeah. You have the right mind, you have a very clear mind, but you have a wrong object. Then also it's not good enough. So you have the clear, sharp, penetrative mind, and you have the right object, and both come together. Then it makes into this vipassana meditation. The other part of vipassana to be fully understood the nature of this vipassana development. Now here in the more complete term is vipassana satipatthana. Vipassana satipatthana, because finally, when you meditate, for what purpose? What is the direction that you want to achieve from this vipassana meditation? Because if you get the wrong purpose, or you get it as a more of a worldly purpose, then you are not fully open up or fully develop the full potential of vipassana, satipatthana. In what the Buddha thought in satipatthana, there are always these three components has to come together. The Buddha talked about that state of mind that I mentioned. It has to be alert, it has to be mindful, it has to be thorough, it has to be concentrated, that state of mind. Then it has to have that right objects, the bodily objects, the feelings object. You have to have the mental states and the conditioning. So this one make up the object. Now the other factor, which is also equally important, is the goal of this vipassana or this satipatthana. The goal. The goal here, the Buddha finally says that, is for us to be able to free ourselves from this cycle of birth and rebirth. Free ourselves from this cycle of birth and rebirth. This goal, the whole purpose of vipassana is to able to reach that goal. To reach that goal, also at the same time, what will happen is that the mental defilements, or the anger, the desire, the ignorance, the three main culprits, these defilements of the mind are totally eradicated. Totally eradicated in the sense that they will not produce any more in the present or in the future or in the future lives. From our perspective of Buddhism, is that our birth and rebirth, it's equivalent to dukkha, suffering. Equivalent because we exist in that sense. And because we exist in that sense, therefore, for suffering follows. And there, this birth and rebirth, this cycle of birth and rebirth going on and on, because it's fueled, it's conditioned by this greed, hatred, delusion. All these defilements is developing, it's still there in order for this cycle, birth and rebirth, to go on. Whether you want to believe or you don't want to believe, it's up to you. It happened anyway. Because the problem is that we cannot see our past life or future life. That's our limitation. But there are people, or maybe you yourself, one of these days you're actually able to see actual past life. Not like what yesterday I mentioned. Yesterday I mentioned is that some people, any memory, also past life. Anything special is they already interpret it as past life. But the real one is not in this form, Anyway, the thing is that when you see this fully, how this life go on from one after another, at times, as the Buddha says, Well, not all the time reborn as a human being. At times you're reborn as an animal, at times you're born in the higher than human beings. And with that, even higher, more happier than human beings in the Deva realms and so on, but still impermanent. Longer period, happy, but impermanent. So impermanent, that means you are going through the cycle of this birth and rebirth, birth and rebirth. Now, in order for us to cut off this birth and rebirth, then you need to cut the defilements. At the same time, when you cut defilements, you cut all the defilements, you also realize Nibbana. Yeah, yeah. You also realization of Nibbana. The realization of Nibbana here, it's finally is the main goal. I mean, the cycle of birth and rebirth, Nibbana, these all looks different, but they are almost the same thing. Yeah. So usually we just use, to me, without explaining much, then Nibbana or cycle of birth and rebirth, I categorize them as the same, in a sense that with freedom from this cycle of birth and rebirth, which is Nibbana. Yeah. In order for us to realize this Nibbana, in order for us to able to cut off this cycle of birth and rebirth, or cut the defilements, or uproot the defilements, here is where the development of Vipassana is utmost important. Vipassana stays at the peak of what you learn everything about Buddhism. Is right at the peak, like a triangular peak there. Everything at the base. The big base over here is where you have to have your generosity, your kindness, you avoid all the unwholesomeness, and so many things. So many wholesome and avoiding all the unwholesome. This is where it makes the support. And in order for you just to develop that Vipassana. So together with that faith that you accumulated, the understanding, the confidence that you accumulated, you come to a meditation retreat. It gives you that whole sila, the morality that you uphold, that you in a way you become a good human being, a wholesome, living in a way, a wholesome way of life. You're not like cheating others or harmful to others, not harmful to yourself. So many ways you uphold your principle, you uphold your morality, then it helps into the development of Vipassana. It's support. I've seen yogis, I've seen people, they want to learn Vipassana without any morality, any base and everything. The moment they start trying to notice their meditation object, the thoughts that arises, every time the thought arises, it arises horrible thoughts, terrible thoughts. And until this thought is so difficult for them to handle, they will break down. They dare not to go on anymore. That means they stop the meditation. Why? Because their nature of living, when you come into the sitting, especially sitting or walking, your thoughts reflect what you have done. If you have a very angry person, you sit there, a lot of times angry thoughts comes in. Yeah. If you have a person with a lot of generosity, on the other hand, then every time you thought Most of the time it's about kindness, generosity, thinking, but still thinking. But it's better than the other thinking. Horrible thinking. You know, because the nature of your development, the nature of your going through life when you are, in everyday life. So all the morality that you accumulated, that you developed, there's no such thing as gone to waste. There's no such thing as it just disappear. You don't have to talk about for future life how it will help you in terms of karma and its resultant. And we don't have to worry about that. In this very life itself, the morality is already giving you that condition for you to develop the mind better. So, in other words, no, many times, especially back in the Buddhist country, for those who are trying to meditate, develop the mind, they also have to keep the morality intact. At least the things that you chant over here, they try to keep it intact. Even, or if not these 8 precepts, then the 5 precepts will be very good. You keep it intact as well and best as possible to avoid all this unwholesomeness. It truly helps you as a support for future development of the mind. So, when we come into the progress of Vipassana meditation, Vipassana meditation is not to create any form of miracles over here. Vipassana meditation is about discovery. It's about open up to see the truth as they really are, not as what you think, as what you believe, and what is all our judgment and our rationality. All these things you put it aside. All your reflection, everything is put aside, because that does not fall under that. Although they are helpful, but they are not the progress of Vipassana. They are helpful for progress, but they are not the progress. The progress of Vipassana finally has to come in to just noticing this sensation of mind and body process. And in order to notice it, you have to be strong. Your mind has to be strong, clear. Faith has to be there. Confidence has to be there in order for you to last day after day, day after day. Here, 12 days of retreat. For beginners, it's considered a very kind of like you start counting your days, how many more days to go, But for other people who has more progress nature, sometimes this 12 days is a very short retreat. Some people go for 3 months retreat. Sometimes in Malaysia, like during the Wasa months, I teach for 3 months. And some yogis, like sometimes like 10 or so, or got every day more or less like 30 yogis, just like something like that. But usually like 10 or 8, they will do all the 3 months. Every day. Walk, sit, walk, sit, walk, sit, walk, sit. Boredom comes in, yes, deal with it. Desire comes in, deal with it. Restlessness comes in, deal with it. Not so mindful, deal with it. Then make it everything. You have to keep pushing. Push until the progress comes in and you begin to see progress. You begin to see the nature of the sensation of the body, the characteristics, and so on. Now, so this is the goal. This is the goal for Satipatthana. Whether you can able to achieve the goal or not, that is another thing. But one thing is that my job is to make sure that Vipassana, full potential of Vipassana is to finally able to realize Nibbana and eradicate defilements at the same time, stopping cycle of birth and rebirth at the same time. This is the goal. But nowadays, the problem is that not many people want to get out of this cycle of birth and rebirth. That's the thing. They want to enjoy here and now. Happiness here and now in the everyday life. Why want to strive so hard and get out? No, the life is still good, still happy. Oh, what for? So nowadays, sometimes Vipassana is being diluted. You know, the objective, the goal is being diluted. Diluted in such a way that Vipassana is just for the happiness of the everyday life, or overcoming suffering of everyday life in order to achieve happiness in the everyday life. Yeah. Yes, Vipassana also will give you that. But for a lot of people, that becomes the main goal. They don't want any more higher. Just want that one. That's it. To me, I look at it as you dilute the goal. You know? You dilute what the teachings of the Buddha is there. So, and yet, and that more so-called secular vipassana or secular mindfulness, or more worldly mindfulness, this one become more popular than what we are doing over here. When it's more popular, that means you don't have to walk so much, don't have to watch your pain so much, you don't have to strive so much. All you need to do is just calm and be peaceful and go walk outside, take a cup of coffee, watch the birds, sit there, be mindful. Are you mindful? Are you present? Yes, I'm present. Are you good? Feel good? Yes, feel good. After a few days, you go back, you feel happy. That's what a lot of people want nowadays. You don't want to strive so much. I've seen yogis, I've seen people, and that mindfulness, why they want to do that mindfulness? Because perhaps they got some health issue, they have some mental health issue, they want to overcome the health issue. They have some unhappiness in their life, or they are carrying certain burden. They want to use this meditation to overcome the burden, so that they are happy here and now. Or nowadays, even like you have this mindfulness industry, a multi-billion-dollar industry. If you are good enough, after this retreat, you set up a shop in Houston, open up mindfulness, people will also come. They will learn something mindfulness, and they pay a sum of money for it. And even now, they have this mindfulness. You have an MRCP or MR cognitive MRCT. Yeah. So all this thing, you need to pay a big amount for it. Using mindfulness to overcome health problem, cognitive problem, therapy, in a sense, then they are helpful. If they are doing it rightly, it is helpful for the happiness of a lot of people, to overcome a lot of their problems, whatever they're going through. But other than that, you don't want to go any more further. You want to have that happiness, that immediate happiness. You want to receive that immediate happiness. But the teachings of the Buddha is that you say that the problem is our life is because that the root defilement, the problem is the root is still there. We want to go directly to the roots in order to uproot them. Not just only um, happiness, in not just only everyday happiness, but we want to uproot the whole thing. So the Vipassana progress is go towards it in order to pull everything out. At least that is the understanding of the teachings of the Buddha. So, with that understanding in mind, then it is good for us to have that, because it will determine how you're going to practice. It will determine whether are you going to make more effort, or going to make a very just a simple effort for your practice. If the goals, for example, if the goal is not achieved, you will keep on putting the effort until the goal is achieved. But your goal is just for the happiness of everyday life. Then if you have gained some momentum, some mindfulness, some calmness, some clarity, to you it's good enough, because you achieve your own so-called personal goal. But your personal goal to the wise is still tainted with ignorance. You don't see anything further, but you believe that this is what you want. So we get caught up in the happiness in the everyday life. Here, the mindfulness here, or the development of satipatthana, it does not mean that you practice, you achieve. The goal is still very far. The main goal is still very far, but does not mean that it does not help you in your everyday life. It does, and there's a lot it can help you. Yeah. A lot of things that it able to help you to gain at least certain degree of happiness in the everyday life. But you must know that this happiness is fleeting, this happiness is impermanent, they are not going to last forever. Yeah? One of the things that let's say a simple example, and this is only one small example. Yeah? You talk about the pain, you talk about the difficulty that you have to handle noting the pain. Over here, as I said, when the pain arises, you are supposed to note the pain, watch the pain as it arises, and you feel how the pain is pulling or numbing, and you watch as what it happens. And as it grows, getting stronger, getting difficult, you know that you come to a kind of your limit. Then after that, anger arises or aversion arises, difficulty arises. Then you dislike the pain. You want to get out, you want to get it rid of the pain. Then this time also, you also have to note the anger. You have to note the aversion. Note it as aversion, dislike, wanting to run, whatever that is happening there. And if you can able to withstand it, sometimes you have to hold it until the hour is up. Or sometimes when you watch it, if the anger or the aversion disappear, actually you can actually come back to the pain. And when you watch the pain, the mind is not affected. The mind is still clear, alert, and mindful. Pain is still there, very strong, but it does not disturb the stability of the mind. Yeah? Just by doing that, indirectly, it will help you in your everyday life. Because here, your mind is trained to deal with unpleasantness in the more right way, instead of getting angry over it. But at least in the beginning, we are mindful of it. The mind is steady on it. So too, when you develop further in the development of this vipassana, Whenever you go through unpleasant situation in life, you go through a lot of difficulty in life, because your mind is trained to handle, to change from being angry, you change it to be mindful, to deal with it. And because you have to deal with it again and again, so next time when difficult situation arises in your life, may not be just, it can be anything. It can be health problem, suffering. It can be situation that is not favorable to you. Unpleasantness arises, difficulty arises. Then that time the mind is much more steady, able to handle the difficult situation in a more open manner, more accepting manner, and yet the mind does not fall into so much anger, so much grief. The mind is much more steady. Just by noticing the pain in that way. And there are many other things too that the yogis can actually benefit from it. Yeah. Perhaps another time we're going to talk about it. But actually what I'm going to talk about tonight is actually continue from what yesterday. Because yesterday I mentioned about, you have to know what is your conceptual object, put it aside, don't get attached to this conceptual object. But now is that we want to know about the other one, the real objects, the actual object that we have to take up in order for the mind to know what other objects is right, so that the mind can distinguish what are the right objects and what not the suitable objects. So we turn to the more right objects, the suitable objects. Just now I mentioned a little bit that the suitable objects fall under the bodily sensations, bodily objects. Then you have, second one is you have feeling objects. Yeah. You have pleasant feeling, unpleasant feeling, you have neutral feelings, the three feelings. Then you have mental states, or mind, we call it. Mental states here is like you have angry mind, expanded mind, you have sleepy mind, drowsy mind, agitated mind, you have a clear mind, you have what mind do you have? What else do you have? You have, the Buddha says, the mind is free from desire, the mind that is free from anger, the mind also is free from ignorance. So there are a number of states of mind that you can notice. So state of mind. The other one, the fourth one, is the, we call it the Dhammanupassana. Here in Pali, sometimes you translate into English slightly quite difficult. Sometimes people say mind objects, which actually is not. What over here, the fourth category, is to see conditioning aspect of how this mind and bodily are related and how they are influence each other. Sometimes they influence it to make it more, sometimes it influence it to make it less. Conditioning, yeah, in that sense. So for example, like when you notice, like let's say, intention. You notice intention. If you notice the consciousness of the intention is there, then it starts the movement taking place, right? So you're noticing conditioning, because here intention belongs to the mind. Movements belongs to the body. So you have a different area, and then you see, you are not just only seeing the difference of it, but you see how they are connected. The mind arises, the state of mind arises, it conditions the walking to take place. And when you don't see that the intention is there, the leg will stop. Just pause there, and it will not move. Until the condition arises, the mind arises, then it starts to move. This is a simple understanding of a multi-discipline from mind into body. Sometimes, for example, another example is to notice the hearing, for example, or seeing or tasting. Take, for example, the hearing. You notice sound. Hearing. Then, with that hearing, it triggers off thoughts. Thinking. With that thoughts, it triggers emotion. Happy. You see a sort of like one after the other. Right now, if you are not mindful, everything is together. The moment you see it, the moment you hear unpleasant, is already, you dislike it already. So this time, as a Vipassana meditator, you see it more distinctively. You notice sound, you notice feeling arises, you notice the thoughts arises, you notice perhaps like anger arises together with the thoughts. So you see separately. Sounds easy, but actually it's not easy. Because of one thing, you don't identify the hearing as an I. You only identify them as object. One condition the other. So this time when you notice in that way, this is one of the aspects you notice it as non-self, not mine. And these are only object arising, conditioning each other. So it falls under the fourth category. Like, they are part of the mind, and some of it part of the emotion, some part of it the body. So they are all interrelated, conditioning in that way. So it's good to take notice of them. So here are the right objects. One thing about Vipassana is that it has multiple of objects. It's not just a single object like what you do in samatha meditation. Samatha meditation or tranquility meditation, in the Buddhist text, in the Buddhist meditation, generally it can be divided into two parts. Vipassana meditation or Vipassana Satipatthana meditation, and you have this samatha meditation, or English translation, they translate as tranquility meditation. And there are various types of tranquility meditation. In the proper Buddhist development, there are 40 types of meditation there. Your metta involved here, your metta, loving kindness meditation, your compassion meditation, your altruistic joy, mudita, your equanimity meditation falls here. Your reflection on death, reflection on the 32 parts of the body. You have virtues of the Buddha, the 9 virtues of the Buddha, and you have so many things. There are so many things. If you are not a monk or a nun, how am I going to teach you so many things? Vipassana is already difficult. You become a nun, maybe I'll teach you. You become a monk, maybe I'll teach you. Because you have more time. You got nothing else to do. You all got so many other things to do. Children, husband, wife, and everything else. Here, there's this type of meditation comparative to samatha meditation. And in fact, that a lot of this worldly meditation, which is not fall under the 40 types of meditation, any form of worldly meditation, also, if they do it correctly, they also fall under samatha meditation. Vipassana meditation, actually, it's whether you like it or not, or what I said, It's actually very exclusive. Only when the teachings of the Buddha is around. When in the future or in the past, when there's no teachings of the Buddha is around, there's no vipassana meditation. So in other words, beings will have a difficult time to get out of this cycle of birth and rebirth. It only, as he said, that it's only during the Buddha's here, then only this meditation you can able to do that. You know, the meditation is not difficult. All you need to do is pay attention to the objects. And yet, it needs a Buddha for us to teach us in order to start the development or to start the ball rolling. It sounds simple, but it's due to the ignorance of a human being, or not just human being, or beings. You cannot, even as that simple, you cannot able to notice them. Just for example, some of you, how far is your stomach to you? The stomach is just here, but when you pay attention to it, nothing. When you take note of it, your mind goes into blank and sleep. As much as it can show you so many things, but yet the mind cannot notice it carefully, clearly. Yeah? So, anyway, vipassana meditation and samatha meditation, they are, although externally it's just sitting there, internally is so much different. The way of development, and in vipassana, it's more technical. It's a lot of things that you have to understand. Samatha meditation, you don't have to do so many things. Walking still important, actually, you know. Not to say samatha meditation, walking is not important. It's still important, but a lot of people don't do it. You only have a single object. Take, for example, a lot of you doing in-breath, out-breath, right? In-breath, out-breath, for most of you are doing this in-breath, out-breath. You're doing through a way of samatha way. You're not looking of how exactly it changes and how it moves and what is truly going on with the whole in-breath, out-breath. You're just only in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out. Then the mind comes down. Sound, pain, rising, falling, sensation, itchiness, thinking, you put it all aside. In, out, in, out, in, out, in, out. That is your job. That is the way of samatha. You got the metta meditation again. You don't have to pay attention to your pain, the buttocks pain, your numb pain, everything you put aside. Just only may I be free from harm and pain. Basically metta, you know, in that sense. Vipassana is different. Vipassana, we have so many different objects. As I said, when the objects become prominent, you have to switch object. You have to switch from one object to another object in order for us to build up on Vipassana. So, a lot of time people come in, especially new yogis, when they come in, they confuse between Vipassana and Samatha meditation. They thought meditation is meditation. What's the big difference? But it's really, there are a lot of things happening there. Samatha meditation is what we call the object-based meditation. Whereas Vipassana is called characteristic-based meditation. Characteristic-based meditation. Although we use the word object, but it's actually more of we are looking into characteristic of the object. All right? We are not just only taking an object. So, Samatha, we call it object-based because they are only taking object only. And you don't see what is happening there. Whereas in Vipassana, we are taking the object, but we want to see the characteristic or the nature of the object. We want to pay attention to how the object is behaving. For example, as I said, you watch your rising and falling. Not just only rising, falling only, but I want you to see like whether it getting faster or it getting longer or it getting smaller or both are the same. Is it there's a more sensation, like a pulling sensation? Then you begin to see into its characteristic in that sense. You're doing a walking. When you do this walking, you notice like there's hardness, pressure, coldness, and you notice movements. And then here, you're actually noticing the characteristic of the object. You begin to enter Vipassana by looking at the hardness, softness, warmness. And it will show you more if sometimes when the progress comes in better, it will show you, like, for example, if let's say you notice the warmness of the sensation that you notice, then when you notice the warmness does not just stay warm, but the warmness may change. It may go into a warmer and hotter, or sometimes or it reduce, and it become cool, and the sensation disappear. That is what we call characteristic of the object. Yeah, we want you to notice in that way. Yeah, we want you to take note in that form, in that situation. Just like again, like take for example, like the pain. When we notice the pain, we want not just only pain, and you know the pain, and that's about it. Then you're not knowing the full characteristic of the pain yet. So in order to notice the full characteristic of the pain, the mind has to be thorough onto it and to truly see how the pain is behaving. It's getting more, it's getting less. Then you are actually looking at characteristic of the pain, the nature of the pain. The pulling, the sensation, like it move around, it become vibrating, it becomes like it changed from one pain to another pain, and then here you are looking into the characteristic of the pain. You notice the sensation of like hearing, thinking. For example, like as I said, you notice the thinking. You notice thinking. For example, at times while you're watching during the sitting, you notice the thinking. Immediately the thinking disappear. You notice again, it comes up, you notice the thinking disappear. That means you catch hold of the thinking very fast, it disappear. That means the characteristic is like that. Short thinking, already gone. Sometimes thinking is that it shows you a little bit longer. Then you have to note thinking, planning. Then at times, while you're noticing these thoughts, sometimes the thinking itself, it gets stronger or even faster, changing from one to another. Sometimes the thoughts, thinking, changing slightly slower. So you begin to see into its characteristic of the object. This is where we want to drive you to as a Vipassana meditator, we want to drive you into noticing this characteristic. This is nature. In order for you to catch hold of that Vipassana development. Okay? So it's a characteristic-based meditation. And this is a very unique form of meditation. Now, in order for us to go into characteristic, at least we have to understand a little bit more. Yeah. In the meditation, in this meditation, like what we are doing here, we are following what we call the Mahasi technique. Now, in the Mahasi technique, what we do is that we begin especially with the bodily object first. And we begin with bodily object, not to say that we ignore the other three objects or the feelings and so on. We're not ignoring those things yet. But most of the time we start off with these bodily objects. You do your walking, bodily objects. Movement, bodily objects. Sensation, you notice a lot of bodily objects, which is very helpful. You notice your sensation of your rising and falling, touching, pressure, bodily objects. You're noticing your pain. That one, it belongs to feelings, but connected to the body. Where is the pain? In the buttock. Where is the pain? On the knee. Where is the pain? In the head. Connected to the body. So in a way, it's still connected to the body, although there are feelings right now. Most of the time, they are unpleasant. Not so much pleasant right now. A little bit on the thoughts also, a little bit also on the conditioning also. But we start off with these bodily objects. Finally, when you go further in the progress, you have to master all these four objects. Not to say that you are good in one area and you are not good the other three. You cannot develop, you have to master everything. But in order for us to develop something, we have to actually able to develop something first. Now here, body is, for my experience, it's easier to develop body compared to the mind or the other or other hearing, like seeing and so on. Because nowadays there are vipassana development that they start off with hearing, smelling, seeing, rather than sitting down or walking. You can do anything, but all you need to do is just make sure that you are hearing, seeing, smelling. Sounds good, sounds nice, but for beginner, it's not easy for them to grab. Mindfulness will not be continuous. We want not only just you are skillful in noticing it, but also the other part is to make sure that your mindfulness is not breaking, able to sustain for at least for a period of time. So, when we take up this body, traditionally, we divided the body into four elements. Not the scientific elements, but more of a traditional elements. And it has a good purpose for vipassana meditation. Now the four elements, what are the four elements? The earth element, you have a fire element, you have a water element, then you have a wind element. These four major elements. These four major elements, we use the word four major elements because they are also minor, that is derived from these four into another 24. So altogether 28. So you don't have to worry about that. You want to go into more of other studies? Well, yes. Some of them are very, you see, these four major elements, although we say four, but the composition of them may be different from one object to another. The earth element here, when we use the word earth element and how it connects with the meditation, is that when you use the word earth element, it signify here hardness and softness. Anything that is hard, anything that is soft, it falls under earth element. That means, in other words, it has a range. Hard, soft. Soft means less earth element. Hard means more earth element. So it's a range. So sometimes you notice something soft, something very hard. That falls under earth element. It support the function is to support. To support what? Actually, is to support the other three elements. The other three are to so that the other three also can function. So anytime you notice this hard or soft, then it falls under earth element. It signifies in that sense. But sometimes in the sutta or in the text, when you use the earth element, you have to. They are actually based on earth, soil, earth. The soil, the actual earth. In that sense, because they have a different function of it. But in the vipassana function of it, we look at it as its characteristic of earth element, in the sense that it's hard, in the sense that it is hard, is soft, is not so hard, not so soft. We base on its characteristic rather than its actual word earth itself. Then you have this fire element. Now the fire element, its function is to mature, to make things mature. Like for example, take a simple example, you want to cook the fish. Oh well, sorry, here's a vegetarian here. You cook the vegetable. You make things, you make it mature. You make things mature. You make everything mature. Your body here, heat, body heat. The body heat also is to help to digest the food, to help you to digest, to give you the energy, to give you the muscle, to give you. Other words, it mature the things that is gone into this one, and with this heat also, it makes you grow old. Unfortunately, if you don't want to grow old, you put yourself in the liquid nitrogen. Then you totally freeze yourself. Maybe in next 100 years, defreeze again. Then you wake up again, perhaps. Then you still look what you look right now. So the thing is that as long as there's a body heat, as long as still alive, the body is growing to that old age. And it cannot stop, unfortunately. So it makes things mature. It makes what mature? It makes the other three aspects mature. It grow into their own way. So the fire element here, it signifies heat and cold, or everything in between. Again, it's a range. You notice warm, you notice hot, you notice something cold, unpleasant. Hot, you notice something cold. All those things fall under earth element. Then you have what else? You have the water element, water element, American. You have this water element. Then this water element, it signifies again cohesion and dispersion. Just like when you have a flour and you want to make a dough, you add in water and it makes the flour to congeal, to hold them together. You put more than that, it starts to disperse. So cohesion, dispersion. Here in this body also, cohesion, dispersion also, it's again here, the body, the water element, in the sense of the water itself, it's holding everything together. It's holding the body, it's holding everything. If you see somebody were to pass away, you put into cremation, heat arises, water disappears. Once the water disappears, everything goes into dust. Go into just dust or bones, or everything become brittle, and that's it. There's nothing much left. So the water element is the one that holds everything together. Now in the Vipassana meditation, Cohesion, dispersion, you may not see it directly. In the sense that, say for example, you notice a sensation like when you're walking. You notice like there's a hardness, one part. You notice warmness, you notice pressure, another part. As if like they are in the same area. In that same area, indirectly we say that water element is there. The water element is there. Sometimes some people may argue, what about if I sit here, then I close my eyes, then the sweat come down, or the saliva go down. Let's say, isn't that water element? What element if not? You see, actually what you notice is a sensation of movement only. Let's say you sweat, let's say you sweat, you only feel sensation of movement. But what you interpret as sweat, you notice something moving, saliva coming down. You conceptualize it as sweat or as saliva. But what you notice is something warm and something moving. So you will notice that something is moving, which is actually the wind element, and something is warm, which is the fire element, and they both come together. The mind immediately interpret that this is saliva. Yeah, just try that and see. Again, if there's any sweat tomorrow, come. Yeah. So water element, you cannot directly notice it. Some people says that, okay, if you notice it, what about if I notice like heaviness? You walk, then you feel very heavy. Again here, what you notice is heavy. But again, sometimes people says that, oh, this is like water element. No, again, this is not water element. Again, this heaviness is something to do with the heat, something to do with the earth there, or or something pressure over there. You notice something heavy. Again, it's cohesion of a number of things. So this is water element. Wind element. Now the wind element here again is signify motion and distension, like something moving and something pausing. Motion is quite easy for us to notice. Something that like you're walking, meditation, wind element. Movement itself is wind element. Rising, falling is wind element. In breath, out breath is wind element. Okay. Even like you eat and you swallow, the food go down, although you cannot feel it, but something is moving, wind element. The other one, where it's come into a bit of tension, when things are not moving, as if like you pull a rubber band, then it becomes tight, and you let go, it moves. So that tightness also, that means it's lack of wind element. Sometimes you feel like stiffness, or you feel like a tension, pulling, wind element. You're able to sit upright. Yeah, you're able to sit upright is also again here some degree of wind element is there. A kind of a tension is something like pulling there. You also need, of course, also the bones, which is in a way earth element also. So again here, this wind element is something is moving and something tension. Now within these four elements, what is more important for a beginner is to take hold of the wind element rather than the first three of it. Although the three of it will come in, but the wind element actually is the one that is easier for a beginner to take up. Why? Because it's moving. And when it's moving, it's a clearer object. You wait for the stiffness or the hardness to come in. When will it come in? It's going to hard to find hardness, or you got to find warmth. or cold. Sometimes your body feel neutral, it doesn't feel that warm or that cold. So it's not a significant object. Now, in order to make something significant, then motion is the one that we have to keep notice. That's why in the beginning, you are taught walking, the movement. Pay attention to the movement. Then when you're sitting, firstly, pay attention to your rising and falling. Moving object. So the moving object is a very helpful object for beginners. So take notice of the wind element. That means, other words, when you sit down, when everything is ready, straight away you go to your rising and falling. And you try to look for your rising and falling. Don't too relax too much, sometimes some people in the past, other meditation places, they tell the meditators to sit there and then relax. Relax for 15 minutes. Relax, relax, relax. If you were to take that thing to over here, then you're not going to go again, you're not going to go any further, because everything that you do from your walking, you relax your everything away. 15 minutes later, you want to start again with the rising and falling. It's very difficult. So don't do too much of relaxation. After all, you're not doing much of anything already. So you are relaxed enough. So other words, from the walking, you finish the walking, you come down, you sit down. First thing, everything is ready, go to the rising and falling already. And you try to watch your rising. Once you're able to notice this rising and falling and you are good with it, in the future, next time, you see that the mind can stay with the rising and falling more often than not. We'll continue on this again tomorrow. And also, of course, tomorrow there's an interview for those who were not here today. So take note of your interview list. So we stop here.